Well, good evening, everybody. Hope your Thursday's gone very well. And as you might just have guessed from the overlay, this is a promotion special on the EFL Debate League Two podcast we've got this evening. A cluster of clubs competing for the playoff spots, but in terms of the top three so far this season, it really does look like a four-way race between Stockport County, Mansfield Town, Wrexham and Notts County, of course. Gillingham were hoping to be part of that equation, but unfortunately for now, they look to be looking at it from afar. And we've got the views of our lovely co-host, Matt Boosey from Gills In The Blood TV. How are you, Matt?
Yeah, good, thank you, mate. Yep, back at work now, so nearly fully fit, I suppose, if you want to put it in football terms. And yeah, looking forward to getting stuck into this one. So
absolutely, yeah, looking forward to that. And we're also delighted to be joined by Nick from the Scarf Bergara Wore podcast. Nick, thanks so much for joining us, obviously representing Stockport County. You must be over the moon with the form the Hatters are in at the moment, mustn't you?
Yeah, I am, but it's one. I don't think anyone's thought of the ramifications of what's going to happen when it ends. No one seems to be thinking about that. It's nice to live in the moment, but at the same time, we've just got to hope that when it does end, it doesn't kickstart a slump. You know what I mean? Because we're still very much catchable, despite what some people enjoying saying on social media.
Yeah, it's really interesting. I mean, I agree. I certainly don't want to sort of rule Stockport as a done deal, because certainly not as early as this, because there's three other very good sides in the mix. At the same time, I think what's really stood out to me about Stockport, Nick, is just the efficiency of this team and the sort of base level of consistency that I've seen from Stockport. You seem to be able to do the simple things well every week, and then you've had sort of an incredible bench as well. I think that seemed to prove crucial in the 2-0 win over Colchester last time out.
Yeah, absolutely. We seem to be doing the things that, even though we got to the playoff final last season, there were times where we looked very inefficient, especially in the second half of the season. We seem to be just kind of just getting along. But we've found, I know in the summer they talked at the fan forum about finding new ways to win and starting to have a plan B. Because last season, when plan A got found out, we had no answer for it. But this year we seem to not only have a plan A and a plan B, but there's a plan C all the way through to F at the moment. Very pleasing. Just finding we're getting all the different types of win. We obviously gave Wrexham that 5-0 hammering that kind of served as a bit of a reminder to them of how they need to improve. They've kicked on since then. We were twice a goal down at Swindon a couple of weeks ago. Went on to win 4-2. Game against Colchester at weekend. They came and set up for a draw, and we managed to get through. That was the type of game where last season would be drawing 0-0 or getting caught on the counter. So it's really nice, really enjoying it.
Absolutely. Nick, do you think that having that period without Carl Wotton in the team has almost been a blessing in disguise, because you've been able to find another way to play that maybe doesn't rely on him, so that even when he does come back in the team replacing the injured Louis Barry, you've actually got different ways to skin a cat, I suppose?
That's absolutely. He was so crucial to us last season, and that's when we started to suffer last season. I think he was out from February, March onwards. We knew it was going to be October before he was back, and then we were, because our main game last season was going direct to him, having him hold the ball up and lay off to other players. The first month of the season, to be honest, we were still playing like we had a target man, and I think that's why a few people were calling for challengers. Matt, as you'd have seen on the first day of the season when you got a great 3 points at Edgeley Park. But it got to the stage with Barry and Alafe like banging the goals in and absolutely dominating. We thought, well, Wotton's he's not gonna get back in at this rate. Like to go from being such a crucial player to then not getting back in. But obviously the injury, as bad as the injury to Barry is, and as disappointing as it was, Wotton's just stepped up straight away. He scored in his first appearance, and right, he's got a fast player playing off him in Alafe. And it's great just finding these. All the talk in the summer was about finding new ways to win, and it's one of those where you hear it and think it's just a soundbite, but they've done it. Fair play to them.
Sure. I'm really interested in the discussion around the midfield at Stockport, Nick, because I have a bit of a maybe a suspicion that I realise Stockport, that I might get in trouble with a few Stockport County fans for saying this, but I think as much as I love Ryan Croasdale's work ethic, and he can clearly keep you ticking over with his passing, I don't necessarily see him as the type of six that can collect the ball under pressure, turn, and then, spray the ball out wide, because I think there's probably a different level required for that. And I just wonder how important Callum Camps can be in terms of giving you that extra option and maybe a different dimension at times.
Yeah, Croasdale's a big favourite of mine. Obviously not the most technically gifted on the ball, especially when you compare him to the other midfielders. But I implore anyone to go and watch his pass for our first goal on Saturday. He seems to have, anytime it was the same with Ben Hinchliffe. He was getting criticism about his distribution, and then at the age of 34, he's improved his distribution. It's the same with Croasdale in recent weeks. He's got a bit of criticism. But the thing is with Croasdale, we don't have anyone else who can break up play like he can. As much as we've got different skill sets in the midfield, there's no one in that side that can do what I think it's something like 3.5 years
does it a
since we
bit.
won a
Would
game
you
without
say,
him.
Nick? You can close down spaces quite
Yeah,
quickly.
yeah. It seems like Collar's always got he's more box to box, so he's always got. He's always got it in the back of his mind that he wants to arrive in the box late on, which we can get away with most weeks. But when we're coming up against the stronger teams, I don't think we can afford to get caught out in that way. But Callum Camps it's someone I didn't really see the fuss about him. I know he came from a higher level. He's a Stockport lad and everything, but it seemed to be times last season where he didn't know what to do when he lost the ball. We persisted in playing him as a defensive, screening midfielder, which I don't think is his game. But he's come off the bench last 2 weeks and scored on both occasions. And I think we might actually start seeing the benefit of him now. And it's just great to have those options as we get into the a busy period of fixtures over Christmas and New Year, just to be able to rotate, especially when you've got the likes of Starcevic and Collar who've had injury problems in the last year. Just being able to drop them out of the side and bring someone like Camps in, it's almost like playing with a cheat code in a way. I almost feel unfair on everyone else. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah, absolutely. I just want to, coming to you on this, Matt, I want to have a look at Stockport's fixtures coming up. They've got a trip to Newport County on Saturday, who aren't in the best of form, but sometimes Rodney Parade can be an awkward pitch. They've got something you might say of a local derby against Salford the following Tuesday. Then they're going to Morecambe and then Sutton at home before the big game against Notts County on the 22nd of December. But theoretically, that's a reasonable run of fixtures. And at the moment, it's hard to overlook Stockport in any game in League Two, isn't it?
Yes, in a word. The form's ridiculous. We touched on them last week, didn't we? And we looked at their 11, and then we was talking about the players that they bring on, and I've just done it again, and it just makes me feel really envious and really jealous. It's a phenomenal squad for the level. It's not just depth, it's just depth of the highest quality as well. Anyone can go and pad out a squad and say, oh yeah, we've got 25 and we've got 2 in this position and 2 in that position, but it just seems that every player is well covered in every single role, and whoever comes in, the quality just doesn't drop one iota. They all know their roles within the team. Like you say, any team that loses Louis Barry, you think, well, there's going to be a drop off. Absolutely not with Stockport. There's probably even a case to say they've gone up another level, which is ridiculous considering how Louis Barry started the season. And excuse me, obviously I had a little laugh when we spoke when Nick was speaking about the start of the season, and we've mentioned that before, that they very quickly realised that Nick Powell's not a number 9 and you can't play him as a centre forward. And it's probably the worst thing to happen for the rest of the league. Maybe if Stockport had beaten us 1-0 and Nick Powell had scored the winner, Dave Challoner might have persisted it with a bit longer and not changed it so quickly, and we might all be a little bit closer to Stockport than we are now, because since then they're just machine-like, absolutely machine-like. You've used the word cheat code, or Nick did, and that's what it feels like with Stockport at the moment. And I know you're not going to go too early and too big and say that Stockport won't win the league, but I backed them at the beginning of the season, and I can't see anyone else winning the league.
Nick, before we let you go, because we do want to bring in Andy Gilpin from the Fearless fanzine on Wrexham, but I do want to ask you about January, because is this an opportunity to maybe start looking at how to build a squad that could potentially do it in League One and maybe do some of the job for the summer in advance, or do you feel like, I'm not saying the fan base would necessarily be thinking that way, but do you think the club might be having half an eye on that?
I think both the club and the fan base, actually. When we've spoken on our podcast about where we need to improve, the general consensus seems to be, let's start, if we're a few points clear at the top and it looks like, same as Leyton Orient last season, it's quite clear by January they were going to go up. If we're in that position, obviously we've got the financial backing to be able to maybe look at players who are bottom end of the Championship, not getting football, who are proven at League One level. In terms of this season, I'd like to see, I think we need a left back, because Ryan Rydell's out injured for the season, and Ibi Toure is off to the African Cup of Nations in January, which leaves just Ethan
Pye, is it?
Yeah, and he's slotted back into centre back now as well, which is his natural position. If we can get that and a Crowsdale either back up or even upgrade, if that's the way we're going to be looking, I'd be happy with that. But I do think definitely we'll have one eye on the summer. If we can get the summer's business done in January, then maybe for once we can hit the ground running one season, because we never seem to have a good start. So it'd be nice to go up to League One and actually have a good start for the first time in about 15 years. That'd be lovely.
Absolutely. We certainly on your way. Nick, it's been great to chat to you, and best of luck to the Hatters for the rest of the season, mate.
Thanks very much. Have a good one, lads. Cheers. Always a
See you
pleasure.
soon, mate. Take care.
Delighted to bring in Andy Gilpin from Fearless in Devotion fanzine on Wrexham. How are you, Andy?
I'm all right. How are you?
Yeah, we're grand, thanks. Just wondering about where you see Wrexham in terms of the promotion picture, because it's been, I think, in terms of performances, for a large part of the season, fans have been feeling maybe a little bit underwhelmed, perhaps. But you have won 3 of your last 4 league games. Obviously, on Saturday, you've got left wing backs James McLean and Jacob Mendy coming back after international duty last week. How big a difference do you think that's going to make?
I think it just brings balance to the team. When you lose players, well, they're 2 international players, aren't they? And McLean especially has got such a pedigree at a higher level. I think the one thing with McLean is he doesn't look a natural left wing back to me. He's not really played there in his long career. He's sort of been a left winger or left midfielder, had someone behind him, and I think he likes to get forward. And I think he's sometimes looking and say to himself, right, saying, "Can I bomb on, or do I need to think about getting back as well?" And he's sort of sometimes caught between the 2 stools. I would say Mendy's probably the more natural left wing back. He gets up and down. He's not as polished as James on the ball. His set pieces aren't as good, but he's more the natural sort of player for that role. With regards to us overall, I think the pre-season trip really derailed us. I think the preparations were bad. We didn't land till 6 days before the season. Ben Foster stayed another 2 days out in the US, and we all know what happened there. I think if they do it again, they're definitely going to do it again. This is going to happen for the foreseeable, these trips abroad. So when they do it next season, I think they're going to have to really plan it a lot better. So they can be back 10 days before, maybe play a game over here before going into the league. So I think that really made it a really stuttering start to the season, but I think we really picked up. I think the Notts County away was a real sort of statement win, something that we needed to do really, and that took us to the top 3. Accrington was a step back, but you were always going to have games like that. We've got no divine right to go to a place like Accrington Stanley, not play well and come away with anything. We didn't get anything, and that's what we deserved.
Absolutely. I'm just wondering, January's round the corner, and seeing as Wrexham weren't hugely ambitious, I would say, or didn't invest to the level that maybe people were anticipating in the summer. Is there the possibility that there's going to be a strong recruitment drive in January, given you're in a good position, having maybe performance-wise been a bit subpar at times?
I think Parkinson has been recruiting even since in non-league days. Two leagues ahead, basically 2 leagues above where they are really. So you would think there's plenty of growth in that squad, that they could go up and challenge in League One as well. I think we've got a very big squad, and there's a lot of good professionals who aren't even in the 20, is it 22, 21, 22. So I think if he is going to bring someone in, he'll have to move some people out. And I think there's the problem that we've got, because we pay very good wages to the likes of, I don't know, Billy Waters, who came from Barrow, can't even get in the squad. But even if periphery players like Liam McAlinden, he's still on good money. And if you're going to loan him out or pay up his contract, that's a big wedge, really. So.
And who's going to take on those wages? And is he going to be willing to take a wage cut?
No, I mean, and why would you? It's, that stage of career, say that the likes of Waters, you've got a 3-year deal on good money. Part of you is going to be saying, right, it might be the tail end of my career, but I am going to be very well paid for what I do here. So, I'm not going to go to a top level, top of the sort of top level non-league club and be anywhere on what I'm on now. So it's be a case of Wrexham having to pay him off. And you wonder if that's even expense even Wrexham need to take on at this time. So in answer to your question, I can't see any massive overhaul of the squad. I think what he'll do is he'll look at the areas where we've maybe been underperforming or where we've had a lot of injuries and maybe bring 1 or maybe 2 quality players in. But I can't see much more than that.
Matt, do you think, based on the situation that Andy's talked about there, that Wrexham, as much as they've made huge strides, because of the financial wealth, actually some of the squad planning that they've made, they've not necessarily got everything right, because handing a 3-year contract to Billy Waters, who was always going to be at best back up to Elliot Lee, who, when he plays, he's fit, let's be honest. Do you think that they've maybe been a little bit rash with some of their decision making sometimes?
Potentially, and we've had this chat about Wrexham on previous episodes, haven't we? Going back to the start of the season, like Andy's alluded to, the tour it's a great idea commercially, and I can understand why the Hollywood boys have done it, but it's the planning, like you say. There's just got to be more care and attention to certain aspects of how the club's being run, I'd imagine, and that was one, because it set them back at the start of the season. I mean, if you look at their form now, I know they lost at Accrington, but I think it's 2 defeats in about 15 in the league, whereas start of the season it just looked like that tour was having a massive effect on them. I know they'd lost, Paul Mullin, who's a big loss to any side at the level, but yeah, I think there's certain aspects that the owners and the powers that be have probably learnt as they're going along. It's new to them, isn't it? And it's, they've not been in the Football League for 15 years. So the Football League's a very different animal to what it was when they were last in it. And then also you couple that with all the, the bright lights of the documentary and what comes with Rob McElhenney and Ryan Reynolds as a package. You have to take all of it and almost put up with the bits that you're maybe not over keen as a fan. But yeah, I'm certainly would say that there's bits that they can improve on, and they will, because we spoke at the start of the season and we said on the pitch there was stuff that they needed to improve on. Things like, you get punished at this level if you give up a certain amount of chances that you don't in the National League, and that's what was happening. I think it was Notts County, the MK Dons first game of the season, for example. I think in terms of how many shots MK Dons and how many actually went in the back of the net, it was probably a worryingly high proportion from a Wrexham point of view, but they've been better at getting the balance right on the pitch, and I'd imagine given time they'll be able to get the balance right better off the pitch. But yeah, January for me will be intriguing for Wrexham, because they can't just go and get who they want, I don't think, like they did in the National League. There's going to have to be, there's more rules and restrictions that they've got to abide by. But I think if you look at their fixtures in the sort of the next month or two, I wouldn't say there's any that hold any fear for Wrexham. So I can't see them being anywhere but in and around the top 3 still coming into January, and probably going out of January as well. So again, it's another club that I'm not going to change my mind on. I had them in the top 3 at the start of the season, and I'll stick to that at the moment.
Andy, who would you say? Would you say Arthur Okonkwo, Aaron Hayden, and Elliot Lee have been Wrexham's best 3 players so far this season, or would you go for someone else?
I think Okonkwo is been very good over the last couple of games. I think he didn't really come in till 5 or 6 games in, and then I think it took him another 3 or 4 to really get the league, get who's in front of him, sort of plan out how he works with a back 3. But I think, the last couple of games, he's probably been one of our best players. Yes, over the course of the season, probably not really. Hayden has just been injured. It's the same with Hayden all the time. Unfortunately, there is a great player there, very dominant centre half who can really cause panic in both boxes. But he's just not fit enough. I don't know if he doesn't trust his own body, and I think when that gets into a player's mind, that becomes quite a problem. Elliot Lee, by far, has been our best player by an absolute country mile. I can't think of anyone really getting close to him for what he's done to us for us this season. When you've got someone like Mullin out, you need someone with X factor to stand up. And the amount of times Elliot Lee got us out of a hole when we were conceding left, right, and centre, and came up with last-minute winners, or did something magic to really pull us through. Lee's just been fantastic, absolutely fantastic. And I can see where there are rumours that maybe some clubs higher up are looking at him.
Certainly. Who else would you put in that bracket in terms of top performers this season?
Do you know what? Sam Dolby's actually come in and done pretty well since it was a bit of a shock for him to start against Notts County. I think coming into League Two, he knew Mullin was out and he really had a chance to stake his claim. And I wonder if that preyed on his mind a little bit. And I think he almost needed to come out of the team, have that pressure taken off him, and then be put back in to think, right, okay, it's not as much, everything's not as much on my shoulders now. And he came in against Notts County and he showed that he's got just a little bit of everything. He's not quite a target man, but he's a big lad. He's not massively pacey, but with the ball at his feet, he can go at a fair distance. He's technically very good. He's the sort of player that you look and think, can he grow with Wrexham? If we do manage to get through the leagues, there'll be some players who won't make it. I'm going to think the likes of Luke Young probably, Ollie Palmer probably won't get another season after this one. Maybe even Ben Tozer as well. But there'll be some players who you think, right, the likes of Dolby, the likes of Mendy, they can really kick on and they can help us in League One should we get there. So yeah, I like the look of what Dolby's done since he's come back into the side. I think midfield wise, you wanted Tom O'Connor to really stake a claim in there, but he wasn't. He looked just a little bit off it and had to drop back into defence. Where he's done all right, but you can sometimes against the better teams, he's not a natural defender.
I don't know what Matt thinks, but I was kind of expecting more from Tom O'Connor this season because I think he was a quality midfielder for Gillingham, lovely left foot and all the rest of it. So you'd have kind of expected him to be one of the best midfielders in League One.
Yeah, we had him as we had Steve Evans, I think, signed him, didn't he, on loan
Left
from Southampton?
Left of the diamond, wasn't he? Versatile.
Yeah, he did play left side of a diamond for a while. I think because we had him and Alfie Jones, didn't we, at varying points of that season. I think Alfie originally came in as a centre half and ended up playing at the base of the diamond. And then I think it was like Tom O'Connor and then Stuart O'Keefe from the sides when Mark Byrne got injured. And I was really impressed with Tom. And he was one that I definitely wanted to try and sign at the end of that season when his contract was up at Southampton. But I think he went to Burton instead. And then obviously 6 months later, got offered a very lucrative contract to drop into the National League. And good luck to him. Football's a short career at the end of the day. And I'm not one of these people that sits here and goes, oh, look, he's got no ambition, because we know what the project was with Wrexham. I think he played as a left wing back a couple of times. And I think there was one game he played on the left of a back three. So, yeah, very sweet left foot. Solid enough defensively. But, yeah, for me, always stood out as being a very good left-sided midfielder that offered you balance. So it's interesting to see that he's not playing in that position. Obviously, Wrexham have probably got a lot more options than we had back in 1920, budget-wise and playing staff-wise as well. Yeah, but it's a strange one to think that if he's struggling to get in the side at League Two, because I thought he looked very decent at League One a couple of years ago, and obviously with the benefit of more experience, you think he would have kicked on a bit more.
Mm. Yeah, did well at Burton as well. So yeah, that's a bit of a surprise. Andy, just before we bring in Sam Binch from Mansfield Musings, I just wanted to ask you what you think. You mentioned 1 or 2 players could be the number in January. Which areas do you expect that to be? Do you think you need a pacey striker up there?
Maybe that would offer something different to what we've got at the moment. I mean, Mullins obviously our talisman. Mullin can do everything. Well, I think, because I love him, because he's Paul Mullin and he's, he can score from every angle. But he's not lightning pace. Palmer certainly isn't quick. Dolby's relatively speedy, but not really your archetypal sort of pace man. Maybe he will look for a striker, but if you bring in a marquee player who isn't a target man, who you're not going to play him instead of Mullin, are you? So it gets difficult. Mullin's obviously the first name on the team sheet. He links everything up. He sort of typifies both the club on the pitch and off it. And he likes a partner who does some of the donkey work for him, and that's not what a pacey striker would do. That, I think, if you're looking for someone like that, it's someone who's going to come off the bench and change things if we need it. But if you're getting a good caliber of striker, would they really want to do that? I do sort of think that maybe he will look for another midfielder, maybe a playmaker. He's had a couple of near misses. I think O'Connor was brought in that role. Really didn't start the season well, and obviously he's dropped back into defence. Andy Cannon is hit and miss. I wasn't his biggest fan, to be honest, but the last couple of games he actually did a really good job for us. Cannon is great when you don't have people really breathing down his neck, but the problem is
breathing down his neck in terms of on the field or in terms of competition.
On the field, really.
Okay.
I mean, if you rush him, I mean, there's a sort of way that you can play against Wrexham, and unfortunately for you, Matt, Gillingham didn't do it, and I thought you would. I thought you would really pressure us from a high press. Opens us up a little bit, makes the midfield panic a little bit.
Yeah.
And you guys didn't do that, and we were able to sort of play around your striker. But you actually get on us, and you get to the base of the midfield as well, and it causes mistakes. And Cannon's not as good in the nose rolls. So someone who can start attacks and be really good in a tight space. We haven't really had anyone like that since Lee Fowler, and that was probably 10 years ago. So maybe he might look to do that, because he is going to have to develop the play. Parkinson's very, very sort of strict on his 3-5-2. It's been enough to get us out of the National League. It may even be enough to get us out of League Two. But once you get to League One, you're going to have to develop the play a little bit, and you're going to need more ball playing people in the centre of the park.
Yeah, well, hopefully Wrexham can find that. Andy, it's been great to have you on. Keep up the great work with the Fearless in Devotion fanzine, and hopefully speak to you later in the season.
Cheers. Thanks very much, guys.
See you later, mate. Take care.
Cheers. Delighted to introduce our next guest, which is Sam Binch from Mansfield or MPFC Musings. How are you, Sam?
How are we doing? Yeah, just mad dash upstairs to get a charger, but
nice.
A bit breathy, you know why?
No, glad to have you. Glad you sorted. Just wondering about Mansfield's promotion prospects, because Notts County, Wrexham, and Stockport were probably the three teams that were really tipped to be up there from the start of the season. Mansfield, I think, probably provoked some slightly more contrasting opinions, I think you might say. Although you did go close to the playoffs last season after an injury crisis. I'm just wondering, you're still unbeaten. I mean, that's an extraordinary achievement, isn't it, for November?
Yeah, I'm just thinking, Gab, who were those people with the contrast?
I've no idea.
No, but I think it was fair to say there was a bit of doubt going into the final season. Well, what appears to be the final season of Nigel Clough's tenure, if he wouldn't have succeeded this year with just the 1 year deal given. So yeah. I think at the moment you'd have to say the prospects are looking pretty strong. With the unbeaten start, it's not really showing any signs of relenting, to be honest. And we've got quite a decent run of fixtures between now and New Year's Day when we play Stockport away. But before then, we've got quite a few teams who you'd have to say, if we were on form, you'd fancy us to pick up points against.
Yeah, a trip to Stockport on New Year's Day looks a real humdinger, doesn't it? Even though it's 5 weeks away. Sam, I think one of the reasons why I thought Mansfield would stagnate and finish mid-table, and I'm gonna hold that. Yeah, own it, of course. I was kind of I knew that you had a good midfield. I was kind of expecting there to be not enough in terms of stretching the play, not enough kind of youthful exuberance and energy. But actually, you look at that performance against Newport, and it was full of running. It was full of there was pace in the team. I suppose Rhys Oates, having him fit makes an enormous difference, doesn't it? But I was seeing a lot more sort of vim and vigour about Mansfield than possibly I was expecting before the start of the season.
Yeah, I think it was interesting to read, because I think I always slag off Davis Keeler-Dunn on here for perhaps shirking some defensive running and that sort of thing. But I read an interview with Callum Johnson in the week where he said that Keeler-Dunn runs 13 kilometres a game or something like that, and was really impressed with a player like that, a flair player who is willing to also put the work in for the team. But yeah, to be fair to you, Gav, I think when you made your predictions, we probably hadn't signed Aidan Flint, and we didn't have Lewis Brunt either, who have turned out to be our preferred two at the back. So I'll give you a bit of a let off there, but it's looking good. Like you say, I can understand the concerns you would have, because especially with the diamond midfield, when you've got 4 players in there who primarily probably technical players rather than anything else. You could see why you might think that we might get overrun at times, but there hasn't been any sign of that. I can't think of any game where we've been outworked by a midfield. Possibly the Warsaw game for a 20-minute spell when they were decent. But yeah, apart from that, and I think it's been noticeable that other managers have commented on our work rate. I remember the Notts County game. Luke Williams was particularly effusive in his praise about the work rate of the Mansfield players. So yeah, there doesn't seem to be any weakness in that side of things.
You speak of Davis Keeler-Dunn there. He's obviously been in fabulous form, but I wanted to talk about the guy who played a pass into him for, I think it was his first goal against Newport, from Lewis Brunt. It was just the most wonderful diagonal from sort of leftish side of the defence, from left centre back, and he picked him out inside the penalty area from sort of, I would say, midway inside his own half, which was quite extraordinary vision, really.
Yeah, it was a beautiful pass. It wasn't the goal. It was a chance that Keeler had. But it was a beautiful pass. He's got that. He's from what I believe, he started off at Aston Villa as a midfield player. So you obviously,
and in spite of that, he's become a good player.
yeah, and obviously when he went to Leicester, they converted him to a centre half, and he's got all the raw attributes to be a real success. He's quick. His leap. His leap is absolutely unbelievable. It's one of the best leaps I've seen in League Two. Like you say, he's calm on the ball. He dribbles out of the defence, which can cause problems at times. But in recent weeks, he's been much. I think he's matured, and there was a passage of play on Saturday where he blocked 3 shots within about within a 10-second move, 3 shots in a row. You could just see the determination to preserve the clean sheet, which perhaps coming from under 21 football, learning how much the points actually mean and the goal difference can mean at the end of a season. You could see the desire in him to keep that clean sheet. So he's coming on leaps and bounds. I think I've been impressed with him, and obviously he's playing on the left side of the two, even though he's right-footed as well, and that's not really caused him any issues. Few rumours, not sure how true they are, that Leicester might look to move him up a level. I don't think they'll look to do that. Obviously we're operating at quite a decent level. And I wouldn't say he's been stand out enough to think he would instantly go and be a hit at League One straight away. But he's definitely got the potential of that in the future. So yeah, hopefully they let us keep him till the end of the season.
Yeah, I think he's not going to be good enough for a top end League One side, and I think it's probably preferable to be playing in a team that's in a promotion race because you get to be playing in a side that's front foot and you get a high stakes point of the season. So I would agree with you. I think Leicester should let him stay at Mansfield, and you can send me my tenner in the post, Sam. But I think coming to you, Matt, what probably benefits Mansfield is they've got Bailey Cargill, who in that victory at Notts County played really well alongside Aidan Flint. So they've actually got that defensive depth. So even if Brunt does get recalled or does get injured, they're nicely covered at centre-back, which is always a lovely advantage to have, isn't it? So you're not reliant on any one individual player being available all the time.
Absolutely, and that's always the trouble, isn't it? And everyone laughs and says never fall in love with a lone player for that reason, because it's twofold, isn't it? The risk is that you bring them in at the start of the season, and if they do very well, then the parent club tends to have a look and see if they can send them somewhere up the ladder, and if they're not playing well, then obviously it's not working out, and you're trying to bring someone else in to improve the team. And Bailey Cargill's, to continue a theme tonight, is another one that we had on loan a few years ago under Justin Edinburgh, and you could always tell that he was a very good player. I think when he left us, he went back and I think he made his Premier League debut a couple of weeks later in I think a 1-0 win at Old Trafford or something ridiculous for Bournemouth. And Cargill's issue's always been staying fit, hasn't it? I think if he kept himself fit over the last 5 years, he'd probably be playing Championship at worst, dare I say it. But he's had to drop down the ladder to sort of reinvent himself. I know he went to Scotland for a while with Partick Thistle, and he's had spells at MK Dons and Forest Green. And I said at the start of the season I thought it was a good signing, but obviously the big caveat is if you can get him on the pitch enough. He came on at left back, I think, at half time in the game at our place, and everyone sort of went, "Oh, hang about, Conor Mahoney's got half a chance here." But I thought Cargill was very good. Obviously, we won't talk about the goal for the leveller. Well, we can if you want. I just get Sam's views on it, but no. Bailey Cargill is a very good player at the level if you can get him on the grass. There's no doubt about that. And it's only 2 years ago that he won the league at this level, so he knows his way around League Two. And if the nature of the beast in lower league football is that you need players that can play a couple of positions, because budgets aren't as big as what you get in the Championship and the Premier League. So it's always great to have some players that are versatile, and Bailey Cargill certainly fills into that bracket. And yeah, a very good player if you keep him on the pitch. But it's interesting what Sam said at the beginning as well about midfield and not being outworked and outbattled. I actually thought first half hour at our place that we were much the better side against Mansfield, and I'd say that we were better than them in the middle of the park, and that's where we was getting our joy. And I think Christy Pym made a save just after the first goal because we'd pinched possession again like we'd done for the opener, and then obviously the leveller came, and credit to Mansfield, second half they were much better than us, and dare I say it, we were probably on the ropes a little bit more, but draw was probably a fair result based on the territory and the chances created and shots and all that type of thing. But I just couldn't help feeling that if we got to half time at 1-0, I think we might have gone on and won the game, and we might not be talking about this unbeaten run. But all ifs and buts, isn't it? They're a good side. You've got to give them credit.
Certainly. Sam, I did just want to go back to the Bailey Cargill point, because I've always been impressed with him as a kind of overlapping centre-back, a bit like we've seen with Jack O'Connell at Sheffield United at a higher level. And I'm sort of wondering, is there a world in which Nigel Clough does go to a back three at any point in the season? Because he could quite easily shift Lewis Brunt over, play him on the right of the back three, play Aidan Flint in the middle, which would be perfect for him, I think, and actually have Bailey Cargill on the left. I could see that working quite nicely, but obviously what you've got at the moment's working as well, isn't it?
Yeah, I don't think there's any need to tinker at the moment, but yeah, it's certainly nice to have the options and the depth of the squad to have that sort of dilemma if you need it or if things aren't quite working. As Matt said there, Bailey Cargill did play at left back on Saturday as well. It's kind of been a bit of a strange one because he started as first choice, picked up a bit of a knock as we've said there, keeping him fit's the key. And then Lewis Brunt came in and he was playing well. So he's kind of been in and out of the team, different positions. But the thing that stands out for me about him more than anything is his ability on the ball. He's very, very good ball player, and you can just some of the passes he picks out. They're not necessarily flashy, but just where he fizzes them between the lines and gets things moving. It's you don't see that very often at this level certainly from defenders. So I think that's one of the things Clough likes about him and likes to get him on the pitch where he can. Where Callum McDonald, when he's at left back, he's a bit more conservative in possession. He's not really an attacking player. He's fine on the ball, but he's not Cargill's standard. But that is one thing that the depth when you compare the centre halves we had last season to the ones we've got this season, it's night and day really. I mean, Ollie Hawkins, who's not a natural centre back, James Perch, who's now playing non-league level, and John Joe O'Toole, who is just coming back from injury, but it's probably now our 5th or 6th choice centre back. And you've got Cargill, Brunt, and Flint. You've got Kilgore, who's on the sidelines. You've got Hewitt, who's on the sidelines. So it's just night and day between the quality of defenders we've got, and that's obviously being reflected in the number of goals we've conceded so far. The best record by quite a way, I think.
Yeah, certainly the best defence Mansfield have had for probably a few years, I would think. Sam, what do you think Mansfield are going to need in January? And do you think John and Carolyn are going to be able to open the purse strings a little bit for this promotion push?
I think they will. Yeah, they've never been shy of doing that, and certainly when you're in with the kind of chance that it looks like we will be in with by the time January comes around, you'd like to think. It doesn't need major surgery. Perhaps a striker who, there's been a bit of criticism of the likes of Will Swan and James Gale that when they've got their chances in the EFL Trophy games and that sort of thing, they've not really taken the opportunity to stamp a mark for a place.
There was a lot of hope over Will Swan before the season, wasn't there, Sam?
Yeah, I think for pre-season he picked up a knock. He was banging them in pre-season. He picked up a groin strain. He's not really got back to it. He started last night in the EFL Trophy, even though they knew he had a bit of a groin strain, and he went off at half-time with a groin strain. So, the least surprising outcome. But even that game, he had a one-on-one, lifted it over the keeper, and the defender got back and cleared it off the line. So it's just one of those runs. Clough has said in an interview that he's not worried about him long term. It's just one of those things where the young striker's going through a lean period. He got given a 3-year deal in the summer, so he's not going to be going anywhere on a permanent basis or anything like that.
Do you reckon James Gale gets it is James Gale, isn't it?
Yeah, James. Yeah.
Do you think he'll get a loan?
He needs a loan. I think he's very raw. When you see him, like, he does something amazing and then just like trips over the ball, kicks it out of play. It's one of those where you can see there's something there, but he's not quite ready for it yet. In my opinion, he could do with a loan, as you say. So yeah, it would just be a striking option when you've got Rhys Oates, who he's not a prolific scorer, but he causes carnage.
Yeah.
But
if I was a centre back, I would absolutely hate to play against Rhys Oates.
Exactly. Really yeah. I mean, but the problem is that he picks up injuries, and then you're left with, not the most mobile front line with Akins and Jordan Barry, who's been back playing up front in weeks.
What I think you need, Sam, is sort of, and I can't believe it's not Rhys Oates. Do you know what I mean? It's like someone like a young understudy, someone who can kind of come in and do a similar job, even if they're not quite to the same ability. But I think it's a big. I sort of question the club a little bit. Maybe they felt like Will Swan could be this, but that thing of you rely on Rhys Oates to do this job for the team, and then when Rhys Oates is out, you've got no one who can do that job at all, and I think that massively impacts the dynamic of the team. So that could be an option to look at. Not necessarily you're going to struggle to upgrade on Rhys Oates or get someone who's going to be good enough to compete with him, pound for pound, but maybe just someone who could come in and just do a similar job.
Yeah, it's the pace as well that he provides. We're missing that throughout the team in general, and especially in attack. If you've got Akins and Bowery up there or Keeler Dunn, they're not quick. They're not going to cause problems in the channels like Oates does. So perhaps a young striker on loan who just come in for 6 months, and like you say, if Oates does pick up a knock, he can step in and provide the same sort of threat. That wouldn't be a bad thing. But apart from that, I don't see anywhere else. Perhaps bring back Anthony Hartigan from his loan at Barnet if we needed, and you've got that option if we needed any depth in midfield. But yeah, apart from that, I'm pretty happy with where the squad's at.
So, in terms of the automatic promotion race, then, Sam, are you going to make a bullish case for Mansfield to get into the top 3 at the expense of one of Stockport, Wrexham, or Notts County, or do you feel like you could be heading for the playoffs?
Yeah, I think we're heading for the automatics. Probably won't surprise you which team I say out of those 3 won't get the automatics, but I don't think Notts. They're a good side. There's no doubt, and they're a good side, very good attacking side. But when you look at the defensive players they've got, I don't think their backline's up to automatic promotion standards.
Do you know what? I'm so glad you've kind of brought them up, Sam, because and I imagine Notts County fans are not going to be thrilled at watching this examined with a Mansfield fan. But I suppose we weren't able to get a Notts County fan on the podcast tonight. But I think the thing that sort of frustrates me a little bit with Notts County, and it frustrates. I think going forward they are amazing, and with the ball, some of their patterns of play I absolutely love. Jody Jones, Dan Crowley, Dave McGoldrick, Macaulay Langstaff. We could wax lyrical about how good they are going forward, but I think for me they're really missing that bit of athleticism at the back, and I feel like it's too easy sometimes to turn them over and cut them open in transition. So for me, I think January is going to be crucial for Notts County. They need a bit of tenacity, a bit of athleticism in that back 3 for me.
Yeah, and they've clearly got an incredible system. They've got a really good manager, but I think that the system can take you so far, but then the players within that system have to. I just those centre backs they've got. None of those scream promotion quality to me, and it's not just having a go at because it's Notts County, but
yeah, I know
when they've played the better sides, they I don't think they've beaten any of them, have they? They lost to Wrexham.
They lost to Wrexham. I don't think they've played Stockport yet. They played them on the 22nd.
Yeah.
Obviously thrashed by your lot. So yeah, I think they drew at Barrow as well. So
yeah, Crewe lost to Crewe as well.
Crewe, yeah, I was at that game. So I do think that they can be vulnerable, but I also feel like I don't look at Notts County and think they're miles off it and nowhere near, because I do also feel like a couple of subtle tweaks. I think they can find a way of keeping what they're good at going forward, and one of the most exciting teams to watch in the league. But just a couple of subtle tweaks just to iron out some of those defensive issues. They're so close to being able to put together the cover and Stockport.
Yeah, they're doing brilliantly, aren't they? To be fair, coming straight up, and if there wasn't 4 teams who seem to be better than a bit above the standard of the rest of the league, then they'd be absolutely flying. So. Yeah, like you say, all it takes is a couple of signings in January, and they're back in the race. I wouldn't rule them out at all. But if you ask me which one out of the 4, might slip away, then I would go for them.
Brilliant. Well, that's that. Listen, Sam, it's been great to get your views on Mansfield. Keep up the good work on Mansfield Musings, and hopefully link up with you later in the season, bud.
Yeah, thank you, mate. Nice to speak to you as well, Matt. Nice to see you again.
See you soon, mate. Take care.
Yeah.
Cheers.
Yeah.
So, Matt, then, in terms of the top 3, we've got to pick a bit of a top 3 between us. I think we'll probably agree that Stockport are in the best position of the 4. So, I suppose it's a case of 2 from Wrexham, Mansfield, and Notts County. Who would be
you may want to look at your comments on Twitter. I think you might have upset a few Crewe Alexander fans.
No, I don't. They've not got the depth for it. I think Lee Bell's done an absolutely stunning job to grind out results that the Crewe have got so far, and I'm a massive admirer of what he's done. They had 10 injuries against Notts County, and they were still able to pull out a result. And I think that was a great performance in the circumstances. I don't see them as serious automatic promotion contenders. Maybe, if they're still in this position at Christmas, we'll talk. But for me, I don't quite see it. So yeah, I'm gonna throw it back to you then, Matt. 2 from 3. What are you thinking?
For what it's worth, Gabe, I totally agree with you. But I was just reading through the comments when Sam was talking. I thought, why have I got so many notifications? And yeah, most of them were Crewe Alex fans. So again, to
If Crewe
reiterate,
finish in the top 7, that'd be an amazing season. By the
oh,
way,
absolutely. And I had them sort of midway down the bottom half, so it's another team that's making me look stupid again. And like you said, Lee Bell's done a brilliant job, and they beat us. It was Neil Harris's last game. They were very good against us. I know we missed a few chances, but they're a good side and they're well drilled and everyone knows what they're doing in terms of the squad. But yeah, I think even if they're in contention in January, Gabe, the big thing for me would be that the other teams will go and outspend them and bring in more to get them to where they want to be. That would be the issue for me with Crewe, but it doesn't take anything away from the fact that they're having a brilliant season. In terms of 3 from 4, well, at the start of the season, my top 4 prediction was Stockport, MK Dons, Wrexham and Notts County. Now, I don't think MK Dons are going to be in there, so I'd have to say Stockport, Wrexham and Notts County. Stockport will win the league.
Interesting. Mansfield, though, I'm starting to feel Mansfield a bit more than I'm feeling Wrexham.
It's fun, isn't it? I had Mansfield 8th because it was a joke at the start of the season that I felt really bad for putting them one place outside the playoffs again. And I think my concerns were similar to yours. It felt like it was Nigel Clough's last chance. It felt like the squad was coming to a natural end of its cycle. But again, I'm going to use the same excuse that Sam gave you, and that was that the 2 centre halves that they got in after we'd done our predictions, we didn't know anything about at the time, and it's made a huge difference.
Sure.
I still worry about Mansfield in the set if they do have a few more injuries, which they've been prone to having massive injury crisis over recent years. So maybe there's a question mark over, I don't know, the training methods or the physios department or something like that. If they can avoid that, then yes, I understand it entirely. But my concern is if they do have another bout of injuries and suspensions will naturally come, then I'd say that Wrexham are still better equipped, and I'm still more sweet on Notts County than you seem to be, and a lot of other people aside from Notts County fans seem to be. I
wouldn't say I'm. So this is the thing. I wouldn't say I'm anti Notts County. If you ask me right now, I would actually put Notts County in the top 3. If anything, it's because I absolutely love Luke Williams. Luke Williams, I think he's got some incredible ideas. I love watching them play, and actually they're massively to have just won promotion from the National League this season. 10th budget to be up there is fantastic, and playing the football they are. It's just because they're that good going forward. It's just there's a part of me that's like frustrated that they seem to concede these basic goals, and it's like I'm not even asking them to be sort of 8 out of 10 defensively. I'm asking them to be 5 out of 10. I'm asking them to be 6 out of 10. I'm asking them to be fine defensively. I'm not asking them to be, Cannavaro and Maldini.
It doesn't matter too much when you're 4-0 up after 50 minutes, though, does it?
That's true. But those games that aren't quite played on their terms, I think they've just got to be a little bit better. And I'm so frustrated because I just know how good they are. But what I think I am excited about is first of all, I think it was a great week for them last week, being 4-0 up at half time against Bradford, and the news that Luke Williams is staying, and the news that the Reitz brothers are planning to invest in January. I think if they can add athleticism to defence, if they can find a replacement for Matty Palmer, possibly even add a second midfielder rather than just one. Then I think they're going to give themselves a real chance. But I do think that January is going to be huge for Notts County. But I back them to make the right movements. Brilliant. Okay. Well, you've given your top 3. I would include. I would go Mansfield over Wrexham at this juncture. So we'll see about that. mainly to appease the Mansfield fans because I got a lot of sticks for saying the 13th. Listen, Matt, it's been so great to unpack League Two with you this evening. So thanks for your time.
Pleasure, as always enjoy it.
Cheers, bud. Thanks to all my guests. Thanks to you for watching at home. This has been the EFL Debate League Two podcast. We'll see you again next week.